I can't help but ask you. I've had William Lane Craig on the channel, so at the very least, I've met him in that capacity. And what made the debate with him so fascinating was William Lane Craig is not a very liberal thinker in that regard. He is an ardent defender of Orthodox Christianity. And I mean, it just goes to show what lengths Orthodox will go to. Some see him as critically non-Orthodox in certain respects, but I don't. If I may ask, and you may not want to answer, and I'll cut it out, what was your experience debating him? What was that like?
I thought it was very enjoyable, actually. Yeah, it was spirited. I thought it was spirited but friendly. I thought I knew. I should probably thank Jack Symes, actually, because normally when I approach, another public philosopher people might have come across.
Sure.
Normally when I approach debates, I'm always sort of seeing the other side, and and then Jack was saying that's not how Craig does things, and no. I knew he sort of prepares and he comes for and so I think I gave as good as I got, but I think it was a good spirited debate. I mean, you say he's a defender of orthodoxy, he's a defender of innovation in a way. He's a defender of a form of Christianity that was invented 500 years ago and is popular in the US. I mean, and I did get I wrote a blog post, a Substack post on the discussion that happened afterwards between the podcast host and the producer about, well, Philip's on a journey, and okay, maybe if that's in the spirit, we're all on a journey. But why am I on a journey? Because I'm not defending this form of Christianity that was invented 500 years ago. In fact, I'm defending a core of Christianity, of the Eastern Church, that is much older. And yes, there's other aspects of my view which are novel, but so was the Protestant view that Jesus is being punished for our sins. Nobody had talked about that earlier. That's why every time I see fundamentalist people preaching in the street, this is what I engage them with. Do you know the view you're defending was only invented 500 years ago? Anyway, Eastern Orthodox people come back to the beautiful image of the vine and the branches. Instead, Jesus, I'm the vine, you are the branches. It's this idea that we're going to come into organic unity with Christ. But why was I saying that?
That you're not necessarily on a journey. That this could be the end game, and that's okay. Yeah,
it might be. It might change, but there's Molinism as well. That Craig defends Molinism, which was a great, a radical innovation. When was it? A few hundred years ago or something. So I can't remember when Molina was now. I think this is part of what I'm dealing with in this book, actually, that we've got this. I think people have this idea that religion is always, old-fashioned and, stays the same. And I think it's partly because we're in a period of history where liberals in general doesn't think religion makes intellectual sense. And so it's all the business of conservatives. Not that I hate conservatives. I think in many ways it's a healthy society where you've got a mix of progressives and conservatives. Progressives saying, look, we need to update, and conservatives saying, hold on, let's not throw everything out, But in religion at the moment, it's unbalanced. And whereas I think in history, the great religions have always reinvented themselves, with the science and philosophy of the time. Aquinas was radically new philosophy. The Protestant Reformation reinvented things. So I think, we need to reclaim this spirit of, we can reinvent religion for our time, and maybe there's a core we're still sticking with, and maybe that's part of God's plan. That we're not at the end of the story. We're still rediscovering what it's all about.
Yeah, I find that a lot to agree with there. I don't have any pushback. I mean, I myself have gone through pretty steep reevaluations of my own religious commitments, and I find it refreshing to think that we can think about these things anew. That when you grow up ultra religious, that is not exactly what you're taught. You're not taught that these specific religious commitments, especially in the evangelical American Christian church, you're not taught that these core commitments are up for debate or can change. And so it can be very hard to allow yourself to think these things through and to think that it's not all or nothing, I think is the key point that a lot of That's a key mistake a lot of people make, is to think, if I reject this specific belief, the entire worldview has to be jettisoned. We have to become nihilistic atheists. And that's not true.
Exactly. And so, if there are people listening, who are either from a very, very conservative evangelical background and are thinking, I'm skeptical a lot of this, or from a liberal background, maybe raised without religion, and spiritual people who think, they could get something out of the community and the structure of traditional religion. I want to say, and what I'm trying to say with this book is, there are churches that, or synagogues or mosques that would welcome you and embrace that. And, I was saying to my priest that I was getting abuse for being heretical online, and he just laughed and said, I think we're all a bit heretical, aren't we? So, I think the Episcopal Church, certainly the Quakers, but even the Anglican or Episcopal Church, I think there are very evangelical wings, there are very, very more than Catholic wings, but there is a place for where that kind of more nuanced position, it might be entirely orthodox, but you're very uncertain if it's true, or it might be taking it all completely metaphorically. And I just think if there was a broader, again, I don't hate conservatives, but if there was a broader demographic returning to traditional religion, I think that would transform the character and invigorate it and have the whole a representative sample of the population on board. I think that'd be very exciting. That's my kind of dream, I think, is to get help liberals make intellectual sense of religion again and see where that leads. It's an experiment.